Let's dive in together. She is literally chugging pure poison like it is a sweet, delicious drink. She learned medicine from her grandpa. Now, she is completely obsessed with toxic herbs and deadly remedies. Raised in the red light district, Malma became their local doctor, testing wild poisons on her own body. The girls there totally love her, but the boss jokes about selling her, sending her running away completely terrified. Sadly, on her way home, she got distracted by rare herbs and walked right into ruthless kidnappers. They bagged her up for some quick cash and sold her straight into the imperial palace for dirt cheap. With her totally average looks, she became a low-level maid. Honestly, though, she actually preferred it this way. In a royal court full of deadly drama, laying low is how you survive. Just keep your head down. Just 2 years and she is free. But wild rumors spread the emperor's babies keep dying mysteriously. Now, the newest royal infants are incredibly sick, and the top palace doctors are completely clueless. Everyone screams that it is a royal curse. But Mao, as an apothecary, she calls absolute bluff. Hearing about their severe stomach pain and vomiting, she instantly knows the truth. It is a classic poison. Now watch closely with me here. Her insane curiosity is about to change the entire game. Reaching the royal suite smack, a loud slap echoes out. Consort Lihua is absolutely furious. She accuses Consort Gyokyu of cursing her son. Gyokyu yells back, since her own daughter is also suffering horribly. The useless doctor stands there sweating. But hiding in the crowd, Mao instantly spots the real deadly problem. She spots something the experts completely missed. A tiny, fatal detail sitting right there in the open room. She desperately wants to warn them, but exposing her medical skills would ruin her quiet life. Huge dilemma. So she gets creative. She ties an anonymous warning note to a flower branch, leaving it on their windowsills. But tragically, Consort Lihua's maid does not even read the note. She just tosses it straight into the dirt, which leads to absolute heartbreak. Lihua's baby boy dies shortly after. But on the exact opposite side, Gyokyu's daughter makes a full recovery. The palace manager investigates, realizing someone secretly solved the impossible mystery. They only found that anonymous warning note left behind, completely saving the little royal princess's life. You and I both missed it, right? The actual killer was their toxic beauty makeup powder. Consort Gyokyu desperately wants to find this mystery savior so she can personally thank them face to face. The manager suddenly remembers brushing past a certain freckled girl. So early the very next day, he summons every single laundry maid. Mao senses a major trap, while the other girls are just swooning hard. You see, his beauty is literally nation-ruining. At first glance, Mao even thought he was a stunning woman. But when he speaks, she remembers the crazy gossip. This is Jinshi, the famously gorgeous palace eunuch. She looks at him with pure pity, feeling incredibly sad that such a pretty guy is completely castrated. Suddenly, Jinshi dismisses everyone else. Mao freezes in panic, wondering how on earth she got singled out. Then it hits her like a ton of bricks. She was the only maid there who actually knew how to read. Realizing she got totally played, she tries to sneak away. But nope, way too late for that trick. Super annoyed but having absolutely zero choice, the lowly maid obediently follows the beautiful Jinshi away. Her ultimate survival tactic: play totally dumb. No matter what Jinshi asks her, she just flawlessly dodges the question. They finally arrive at Gyokyu's palace. Seeing the little princess happy and healthy, Mao secretly breathes a massive sigh. Then, the high consort actually bows down to thank her. Mao instantly panics and completely denies everything. She wants zero part of this drama. But Jinshi whips out the note's fabric. It perfectly matches a maid uniform. And guess whose skirt is missing a piece? Game over. Mao drops the innocent act and finally confesses. She reveals her true background. How did she know about the toxic makeup? Growing up in the red light district, the courtesans there suffered the exact same sickness, literally trading their own lifespans just to look a little prettier. It is absolutely tragic. After finding the hidden note, Consort Gyokyu actually tried warning Consort Lihua about it. But Lihua completely ignored her warning, which led to her son's death. Now, Mao gets a really bad feeling. They definitely did not bring her here just to say thank you. Not even close. So what do you and I make of this? Trust me, her quiet background life is officially over. Can't find a girl who meets your standards and actually likes you? Just use Qian Shou. Don't hold back on your demands. The pickier you are, the better it matches you. Go try it. Now, you and I are about to watch Jinshi question his perfect looks. His usual pretty boy charm works on every maid, but to Mao, he's just a creep. But surprisingly, her absolute disgust just awakens his weird masochistic side. He doubles down on the charm, setting up a totally fake chance encounter at the laundry room. Under the jealous stares of other maids, he uses his ultimate head pat technique, destroying everyone's hearts. Mao just gets massive goosebumps. She wants to bolt, while Jinshi is super smug about his supposedly lethal charm. Little does he know, it completely backfired. A traumatized Mao Mao heads alone to Lady Gyoku's palace. This entire palace only has 4 maids. With her, it makes 5. It's day 1, and she's ready to work. But the other 3 flat out refuse to let her work, giving her these pitying looks that leave her totally confused. Turns out, they saw her bandaged arms and thought her parents brutally abused her before selling her to the palace. A clueless Mao Mao goes back to her room, still not knowing her actual job until she's summoned again. Apothecary, this is your real job. It turns out, while Lady Gyoku was pregnant, someone poisoned her food twice. The old taster is still paralyzed, so to anyone else, this job is wildly dangerous. Now watch closely here. Mao Mao is actually thrilled, because she's insanely obsessed with deadly poisons. Her body is built entirely different. Most toxins can't even hurt her, and now she finally gets to play with poison again. Naturally, she's hyped. She literally turns this deadly food-tasting job into an all-you-can-eat buffet. She even blushes with pure satisfaction. Oh my god. She then advises Han Yang to swap porcelain bowls for silver, just to make spotting poison way easier. But Han Yang drops a bombshell: they only use porcelain today, because Jinshi was purposely testing her. Ah, totally makes sense. Over the next few days, Mao Mao does nothing but eat. They absolutely won't let her do any actual chores. At this rate, she'll turn into a total pig. Then Jinshi brings some buns for her to inspect. Mao Mao splits one open, takes a single sniff, and instantly knows what's inside. But even if eaten, it won't hurt anyone. Just make sure to lock the doors and windows tight tonight. Not enough. Still, just the thought of openly making medicine inside the palace gets Mao Mao hyped beyond belief. She agrees instantly, grabbing her basket and rushing to the pharmacy. Jinshi's guard Gaoshan is already waiting. Meanwhile, the quack doctor is furious that a lowly maid is entering his turf. He feels completely insulted, but stepping inside, Mao Mao acts like she just found absolute paradise. You saw that too, right? Seeing those rare ingredients has her drooling and dancing with pure excitement. Wait, getting straight to work, Mao Mao aggressively rolls up her sleeves and starts cooking up a storm. Her knife skills? Absolutely flawless. Honestly better than a master chef. After countless complex steps, she finishes crafting these medicine-laced chocolates. Now they just need to cool in water. Ever the penny pincher, she rolls leftover scraps into steamed buns. Since they don't need cooling, she carelessly tosses them on a shelf, then happily runs out to gather more herbs. But coming back, disaster strikes right in front of her. The crazy effects are fully proven, but those buns weren't for them. Mao Mao brings out the finished chocolates. Jinshi asks what the buns were for, and she casually calls them her midnight snack. Since she's used to extremes, the effects won't hit her hard. Hearing this, Jinshi boldly grabs a bun to try it himself. Oh, just wait. Mao Mao can't help but mentally picture exactly what happens if he eats that. It would make any guy lose his mind. She quickly warns them to eat only one piece. Eating more causes permanent bodily damage, because these chocolates are 3 times stronger than normal medicine. Lady Gyokuyu is incredibly pleased. She's practically dying to head back and test them out. Once she leaves, Mao Mao gets ready to sleep too. But Jinshi suddenly leans in close, his voice dripping with absolute temptation. That's where we leave it. Mao Mao freezes in terror, realizing he walked away just to mess with her. Stick with me, we're diving into a wild palace mystery sparked by a stolen bun. As the weather gets freezing cold, Mao Mao starts brewing up some heavy-duty winter medicine. A palace maid spots the bandages on Mao Mao's hands. Total sympathy mode activated immediately. She grabs Mao Mao's hands, bawling her eyes out, leaving our deadpan girl completely speechless. Then, the maid brings up the juiciest rumor. A ghost haunting the palace at night. Xiaolan, the ultimate gossip queen, claims it's a drowned consort dragging people to the grave. Xiaolin is absolutely terrified. But Mao Mao? She knows it's just another classic, boring ghost story. Honestly, she's way more interested in the snobby royal doctor who finally respects her. His attitude completely flipped. Now he bribes our little foodie with top-tier premium desserts. Mao Mao's eyes light up. But right before she takes a bite, the sneaky Jinshi interrupts. So annoying. She seriously wonders why this guy just roams the rear palace all day. Maybe he's a high-ranking inspector sent by the emperor? But he looks way too young. Ha, yeah, right. Anyway, back to the ghost stuff. Jinshi asks if she can cure sleepwalking. The ghost is clearly just a sleepwalker. But Mao Mao bluntly states medicine can't fix that. She desperately wants out of this drama. But you saw this coming, right? Jinshi starts shamelessly pouting. She just can't handle his puppy eyes, so she finally agrees to help out. Night falls. Jinshi's bodyguard, Gaoshan, escorts Mao Mao. He looks way too buff for a eunuch. Mao Mao starts doubting both their identities. But Gao Shen totally interrupts her suspicious train of thought. He practically begs Mao Mao to stop looking at Jinshi like a disgusting little bug. Because Jinshi acts super weird every time he goes back to his room, they finally arrive. Mao Mao is completely mesmerized. The so-called ghost is actually a gorgeous woman dancing under the moon, like an absolute goddess. Gao Shen reveals this is consort Fuyu, a princess from a small state. She was a master dancer but completely messed up her performance in front of the emperor, so he totally ignored her. Recently, the emperor even gifted her to a military officer. To gather clues, Gao Shen brings Mao Mao to her room. Daytime Fu looks completely different. She looks completely plain right now, just like a real hibiscus blooming white in the morning, but turning into a vibrant, stunning pink at night. Mao Mao then tracks down Xiaolan again. She needs more ghost intel. Xiaolan says the ghost first appeared at the north wall, but now it's at the east gate. You and I are connecting the dots, and so is Mao Mao. When reporting to Jinshi and consort Gyokuyu, she totally lies, claiming Fuyu is just traumatized. The stress of leaving caused her sleepwalking. She once saw something similar back in the red light district. A super cheerful girl was getting bought out. Suddenly, she acted totally possessed, wandering the halls every night until the deal fell through. The guy buying her freedom was a half-dead old man. She just needed 1 year to be completely free with someone else. Exactly. Jinshi knows Mao Mao is hiding something. Gao Shen investigates secretly. Meanwhile, Fuyu gets totally locked down, grounded until she leaves. Mao Mao secretly prays for success, but Gyokyo notices her acting weird. Sensing a hidden truth, Gyokyo purposely brings Mao Mao along to Fuyu's official send-off ceremony. All the gossiping maids feel super bad for Fuyu, but Fu looks completely calm, totally unbothered. Gyokyo finally asks Mao Mao for the real truth, promising to keep it secret. Turns out, based on Mao Mao's intel, that military officer, he's actually Fuyu's childhood sweetheart. He begged the emperor for Fuyu as a reward. She started planning this 2 years ago. So what do you and I make of this? She faked everything just to stay pure for him. So the sleepwalking routine happens again. Every single night, she dances facing the exact direction of the battlefield, praying for his safe return. And stick with me here, just like Mao Mao guessed, these two lovers finally reunite. Back to the drama. Mao Mao grabs the maid and finds the deadly face powder hidden inside the drawer. She mercilessly dumps it straight over the maid's head. Let her feel the quote-unquote beauty effects as toxins rapidly spread. Soon, she'll become just as beautiful as consort Lihua. Pale skin, deeply sunken eyes, unable to eat anything, completely paralyzed in bed. That's exactly why Lihua looks like a ghost right now, and it's exactly what killed the infant princes. Recently, the emperor ordered Mao Mao to nurse the bedridden Lihua, but these stubborn maids blocked her at every single turn. They refused to let her near the consort. Ignoring all warnings, they kept feeding the extremely fragile Lihua heavy, greasy meat dishes. At this rate, Lihua would definitely die, and Mao Mao could literally lose her head. Locked out, Mao Mao could only panic. That is, until Jinshi finally showed up and completely laid down the law. Problem solved. Now watch closely, because things get wild. Mao Mao finally reaches Lihua, only to find the maid still applying that toxic powder. This absolute stupidity is straight-up murder. The maid violently trembles, finally realizing the horrifying gravity of her actions. Mao Mao ignores the crying maid. Instead, she snaps at the others, ordering them to scrub the floors spotless immediately. Seeing Mao Mao's terrifying rage, nobody dares to slack off. They instantly get straight to work. Lihua's condition is worse than expected. Mao Mao feeds her a clear, nutrient-rich broth, then throws all windows wide open for fresh air. Next, she orders the maids to bring warm water to carefully wipe Lihua down. For days, Mao Mao grinds away in the kitchen. Lihua's strict diet leaves zero room for error. Under Mao Mao's command, everything runs like a perfectly oiled machine. The maids are definitely annoyed, but they wouldn't dare say a word. As for the maid, who applied the makeup, locked up. Meanwhile, Jinshi watches silently from the shadows, noticing how completely exhausted Mao Mao looks. Using Gao Shen's name, he sends her 2 steamed buns, even pitifully begging to help her out. Actually, Mao Mao does need a favor. She has Jinshi order his men to build a steam room, helping Lihua sweat out those stubborn toxins. But Lihua remains totally depressed, crying her eyes out over everything she's lost. She keeps flashing back to every little moment with her late infant son. The pure joy that new life brought her is impossible to forget. But right now, something finally clicks. She actually starts following Mao Mao's recovery plan. Thanks to this hardcore care, Lihua bounces back incredibly fast. Soon, the imprisoned maid is released. Surprisingly, Lihua doesn't even blame her. Just like that, 2 whole months fly by. Lihua is basically fully healed, taking solo walks in the garden. Mao Mao can finally breathe a massive sigh of relief. Totally exhausted, she instantly passes out. On the exact day Mao Mao packs for Jiaqiu's palace, Li Hua nervously asks if she can still have kids. Mao Mao says she'll only know if she tries. Li Hua just laughs bitterly. After the powder incident, the emperor probably won't visit. Plus, she thinks she isn't as pretty as Jiaqiu. Mao Mao stays quiet. She just stares at Li Hua's impressive curves, whispers a few secret words, and then smoothly walks away. I know what you're thinking, what did she say? She dropped a secret seduction technique straight from the red light district. Sadly, Mao Mao lacks the physical assets to use it herself. But the results? Oh, they are instantly obvious over the next month. The emperor visits Jiaqiu way less. But Jiaqiu is actually thrilled, because she finally gets to catch up on sleep. Mao Mao definitely feels a bit guilty. Meanwhile, whenever a weird mystery pops up, Jinshi shamelessly comes begging for her help. Mao Mao wants a low profile, but her curiosity always wins. Lately, multiple palace servants are breaking out in mysterious red rashes. According to one panicked eunuch, while cleaning up palace trash, he accidentally stumbled upon some strange bamboo strips. Without thinking, he tossed them right into the fire. Suddenly, flames shot into the sky, burning with incredibly bizarre colors. Right after that, the angry red rash appeared. Completely terrified, the guy was convinced he had just been cursed. Mao Mao doesn't mock his ignorance. Instead, she casually lights a bamboo strip and starts tossing different chemical powders onto the flame. The fire instantly changes color before their eyes. Turns out, certain materials just naturally produce colored flames when they burn. That's literally the exact same science behind colorful fireworks. As for his quote-unquote cursed rash, just a normal allergic reaction to whatever coated the bamboo. Jinshi claps in amazement, but Mao Mao doesn't care. So what do you and I make of this? Someone poisoned that wood on purpose. Stick with me, we're about to watch her pull the ultimate disappearing act. Let Jinshi handle this mess. But the second she gets back to the Jade Pavilion, pure chaos. The maids are running everywhere. Before she can blink, they shove her into a new dress. Turns out, the massive biannual garden party is just days away. The emperor and all the heavy hitters will be there. Food, performances, the works. And since Lady Jiaqiu is a top consort, skipping it, not an option. They don't actually have to do much, just nod and smile when officials come to kiss up. Just fake a smile, right? But the second Mao Mao thinks about dealing with a massive crowd, her skin crawls. She literally asks to sit this one out. The maids shut that down immediately. They have to represent their lady. Besides, the Jade Pavilion is already severely short on staff compared to the other pavilions. So, Mao Mao is stuck going. Knowing they'll be freezing outside in the dead of winter, she preps some special warming tricks. She sews hidden pockets for heated stones, basically ancient hand warmers. The head maid sees this, and her eyes absolutely light up. She begs Mao Mao to make some for all the girls. Easy enough, right? But then Jinshi catches wind of this genius idea, and of course, he wants in. Before long, even the emperor's personal tailors and chefs are knocking on her door for the secret. Boom. Mao Mao is slammed with work for days, barely finishing the massive order right before the banquet kicks off. The big day arrives. Lady Jiaqiu looks absolutely stunning, and she even gifts her maids some crazy expensive accessories before they head out. Her squad cannot look cheap out there. So the girls grab a completely clueless Mao Mao and drag her away. They're determined to give her a full makeover. But the second they start scrubbing her face, they realize something is very wrong. Wait, her freckles are washing off. Meanwhile, the high consorts are all making their grand entrances into the garden. Now pay close attention here. Jinshi rushes over immediately, but we all know he's not actually here for the consort. He uses the baby princess as an excuse. But when Mao Mao turns around, the guy is completely paralyzed by shock. He literally can't even form a sentence. What happened to her face? Sighing, Mao Mao is forced to explain her whole kidnapping story all over again. Hearing this, Jinshi is crushed with guilt. He blames himself for letting it happen. But Mao Mao, she literally couldn't care less. It's not his fault. He's just a eunuch. How could he control kidnappers outside the palace? But right now, Mao Mao still has no clue who he really is. Jinshi, though, he's drowning in regret, and a massive wave of protectiveness hits him. Before she can even blink, Jinshi pulls out his own personal hairpin and slides it right into her hair. Mao Mao has zero idea what this actually means. But the other maids? They immediately swarm her, absolutely dying of jealousy. Lady Jiaqiu just smiles and drops a totally cryptic hint, teasing that Mao Mao might not be her maid for much longer, leaving our girl completely confused. Like, seriously, what is everyone talking about? Let's pause for a second. We all know poison testing is a death sentence, right? But watch her. She gently swirls the cup, checking the rim for any black residue. Smelling the aroma. Once it clears the check, She takes a tiny, elegant sip and finally swallows. Smooth, calm, totally professional. Meanwhile, the other consort's maids are too terrified to even take a bite, because every single dish is basically a gamble with the Grim Reaper. But in stark contrast, Mao Mao is actually praying for poison. That numbing tingle on her tongue? That's literally her favorite feeling in the world. A creepy little smile appears. Then, the next dish arrives, shredded fish. But wait, this isn't the usual mackerel. It's jellyfish. Mao Mao wonders if the kitchen messed up the orders. But hey, Lady Gyokyu isn't picky, so whatever. She shrugs it off, until she glances over and sees the pure consort staring down at a plate of mackerel. And the consort looks absolutely sick at the sight of it. But since leaving leftovers in front of the emperor is forbidden, she forces it down anyway. Mao Mao narrows her eyes, noticing the heavy makeup on the consort's maid. Something is seriously off. Next up, a bowl of spicy soup. Mao Mao takes one spoonful, and oh my god. Pure, mind-blowing bliss hits her instantly. She looks so incredibly euphoric that the watching ministers are totally creeped out. But there's only one reason she's looking like this. Yep, the food is spiked. She savors the high for a few seconds before finally remembering she's supposed to be working. She declares it loud and clear. This food is completely laced with poison. One arrogant minister doesn't believe her. He ignores the warnings, takes a bite himself, and bam drops like a sack of rocks. Jinshi panics and chases her outside, but as you and I both know by now, worrying about her is completely pointless. She absolutely loved every single second of it. Stick with me here. Mao Mao actually asks Jinshi if she can keep the leftover poison for herself. Jinshi wonders if the poison completely fried her brain. Meanwhile, Mao Mao notices his new hairpin. A eunuch getting gifts? Weird. Then she spots his messy collar. Her wild imagination immediately takes over, completely distracted the whole walk to the clinic. Finally, Mao Mao manages to throw up the poison she swallowed. Jinshi demands to know who targeted consort Yuyi. Instead of answering straight up, Mao Mao orders him to summon Consort D, along with her personal food taster. The second Consort D arrives, Mao Mao rolls up the woman's sleeve without hesitating, revealing a massive rash of red hives. It's a severe food allergy. Everyone has different triggers, and even our expert Mao Mao has foods she absolutely avoids. For example, just a tiny bite of buckwheat makes Mao Mao stop breathing. Consort D, she's highly allergic to mackerel. Normally, the royal kitchen knows exactly what the consorts can eat. But this time, a deadly mistake slipped right through. Watch closely, this is where it gets crazy. Someone definitely swapped Consort Yuye's meal with Consort D's plate. Allergies can be completely fatal. The maid starts shaking violently. Mao Mao already knows she swapped those plates. Maybe she just wanted to embarrass Consort D, but ironically, her little sabotage actually saved the consort's life. Mao Mao keeps quiet about the crime. Instead, she writes a strict dietary warning onto a bamboo slip. She hands it directly to the guilty maid, basically giving her a silent final warning. After they leave, Jinshi immediately turns to Mao Mao, demanding to know what just happened. He asks why she wanted that specific maid. But Mao Mao stays silent. She still has no idea who the real mastermind is. But one thing is absolutely certain now. If the other consort's meals were safe, the real target was always Consort D. Later, Mao Mao walks into the gardens and hears Consort D's maids trash-talking her, while her own maids furiously defend her. The rival maids don't even notice Mao Mao standing right there, relentlessly calling her ugly. They clearly forgot her scary side. They keep running their mouths, getting so bold that Mao Mao's loyal maids are ready to throw hands right then and there. Seeing this chaos, Mao Mao just flashes her signature creepy smile. Her maids quickly rush over to comfort her. Mao Mao shrugs it off like it's nothing, gently reminding them to change their warmers. Her maids instantly burst into tears. Suddenly, Mao Mao notices officials handing out hairpins to the palace maids. It's a classic garden party tradition here. It's a way to recruit talent or flirt, but Mao Mao couldn't care less about palace romance. But get this, after taking a few steps, an official blocks her path and tries to hand her a hairpin anyway. She spots several hairpins on his belt. Assuming it's just basic politeness, she takes it without a second thought. Now trust me, you are not ready for this twist. A 5-year-old girl is suddenly attempting to commit murder. Mao Mao rushes in to stop the attack. What's crazy is that this same little kid brought her to save lives earlier. But now, the kid is completely obsessed with finishing the job. She lunges for the dagger, so Mao Mao headbutts her hard. The little girl grabs her head in pain and starts absolutely bawling her eyes out right on the floor. Let's rewind to this morning. Mao Mao got dragged to the brothel, finding a panicked group of ladies blocking a door. Inside, a man and a woman were passed out on the bed. The situation looked incredibly grim, with zero time for questions. Mao Mao jumps straight into rescue mode. The man isn't breathing at all, so she checks his airway immediately. She starts aggressive CPR, Slowly, the unconscious man begins responding. Everyone assumed this was a tragic double suicide by poison. It's honestly super common in the red light district. Women stuck in endless debt, men too broke to buy their freedom. It almost always ends this terribly. After 2.5 intense minutes of CPR, they are finally stabilized. Mao Mao jots down their symptoms on a slip and sends the girl running to fetch her old man from the village. By the time the girl finally drags her dad back, a massive 2.5 hours have already passed. Her dad instructs Mao Mao to mix up charcoal and specific herbs, forcing the thick mixture down both patients' throats. To her old man, Mao Mao's emergency response was barely passable. He constantly uses life or death moments like this to test her. Mao Mao explains they probably swallowed highly toxic tobacco, which is exactly why she refused to give them any water. Stomach acid slows down poison absorption, so drinking water would have sped up their deaths. But her dad flips the question. What if the poison was already dissolved in water beforehand? Mao Mao freezes, realizing there was no actual tobacco in the vomit. If it was water-soluble, drinking water would safely dilute it. She kicks herself for the rookie mistake. Her dad is still the master. So what do you and I make of this? The madam pays them gold, but something still feels incredibly wrong. Stick with me here. This double suicide, we are about to find out it is absolutely not that simple. While thinking, she spots the girl rushing by looking completely panicked, so she follows her to investigate. And that leads right to our opening scene. Mao Mao stops the attack, and another courtesan rushes over. She pulls Mao Mao aside for a secret chat. Turns out, this guy is actually a wealthy young master. He constantly uses sweet words to trick women, promising freedom before tossing them aside like literal trash. He has ruined countless lives. Some tried poisoning or stabbing him, but money always crushed them completely. The girl's own sister was one of his victims and ended up taking her own life. And today, she was best friends with her. That is why the girl hates him enough to try finishing the job. Mao Mao doesn't agree with the method, but out of pity, she promises to keep quiet about the assassination. On the way home, Mao Mao realizes something is off. Doctors are nearby, yet she fetched the absentee apothecary. But unfortunately for her, Mao Mao was actually home. Then, she deliberately wasted 2 hours fetching the old man. This girl is seriously calculating. She clearly wanted to delay his treatment. Mao Mao is just incredibly exhausted. She finally visits home and runs into this mess. She asks her dad to open the madam's pouch. Seeing the cash inside completely confirms her theory. This isn't just a simple gift. It is pure hush money. A scumbag like him would never commit double suicide over a girl. But having survived multiple assassinations before, he should be extremely careful, right? So how was he poisoned? Mao Mao carefully replays every single crime scene detail. 2 liquor containers, a shattered glass cup, some weird wheat straws, and a room completely filled with tobacco. Now watch closely. You and I are about to uncover exactly how this impossible crime was pulled off. The top courtesan who was poisoned was the real culprit. To trick him, she prepared 2 different density liquids. She poured the lighter poison wine over the heavier safe wine. The layered look wouldn't raise any suspicion. It actually looked impressive. Then she just used a straw to drink the safe liquid from the very bottom. Seeing this, the man chugged his drink with zero hesitation. Once he passed out, she scattered the prepared tobacco. This created the perfect illusion of tobacco poisoning. Finally, she drank a tiny bit of poison to clear herself. It was just enough to avoid fatal danger. A flawless plan, except she didn't expect Mao Mao to save him. There are still weird details, like the courtesan being way too sympathetic, and the madam paying her off generously. Maybe they were all in on it. The pleasure district is basically the inner palace, just different walls. It is a beautiful garden, but still a cage. She has no idea what punishment awaits that poisoned courtesan. Maybe the man will realize she poisoned him, or the brothel will sue. Either way, not her problem. Oh man, Mao Mao's one trip home somehow ruined 2 men. First, there is Liaku, who escorted her out. He got completely addicted to the pleasure district. He will probably blow his life savings there. Then, there is Jinshi. He rushed through all his official duties, super excited to finally see Mao Mao again. But what did he hear? She went home with another guy. I know what you are thinking. Jinshi is jealous, right? Oh, absolutely. When she finally returns, Jinshi is pouting like a jealous partner. Mao Mao really can't stand him staring like this. She tries to make a quick excuse and slip away, but Jinshi instantly grabs her by the arm. His face is full of pure reluctance, but Mao Mao is completely clueless. So, Jinshi stops beating around the bush. He asks straight up about her relationship with Lee Haku, and if she knows what giving a hairpin actually means. She only knew it let Lee Haku act as her guarantor to leave. Jinshi is completely speechless, but what annoys him? Why didn't she just ask him to do it? Mao Mao bluntly says she couldn't afford a proper gift. Jinshi catches the hint. He basically implies she wouldn't even need to pay him anything crazy for his help. Seriously, he is just making things so complicated today. Even though Mao Mao doesn't entirely understand the jealousy, she definitely senses something is super weird right now, so she quickly makes her escape. Outside, consort Gyokyu is laughing hard, while Hongyang just face palms at the mess. It is only after Jinshi leaves that he realizes the truth. Her big payment to Lihaku was just introducing courtesans. But the very next day after Mao Mao returns, disaster strikes again. Soldiers pull a dead woman out of the moat. Mao Mao rushes in. So where does this leave us? A brand new murder means things are about to get wild. Alright, you and I are diving in. They want Mao Mao to do an autopsy, but despite her experience, she straight up refuses. Her old man warned her to never touch bodies, knowing her absolutely insane level of curiosity. He was terrified she would actually dig up graves. So the official awkwardly does the autopsy himself, but he is completely useless. Mao Mao has to check the details herself. The victim wears hard wooden clogs, bound feet and red fingertips. She definitely struggled in the water, maybe just a basic survival instinct. But Mao Mao is absolutely certain someone else was there. Trying to climb an 8-meter wall alone, it is almost impossible. There are 0 ladders around, only protruding bricks left by the builders. Most women could never climb that, especially with bound feet. But based on this evidence alone, they still cannot tell if it is suicide or murder. That is, until they find a note. Unexpectedly, the victim is tied to the previous poisoning incident. It is ruled a suicide, but remains highly suspicious. One wave settles, another rises. Barely 2 days later, another deadly mystery strikes the palace. Now watch closely, because even Detective Conan would sweat here an official dies from drinking, but it is not simple. He knows the guy had epic alcohol tolerance. He asks Mao Mao to investigate, but the bottle is completely shattered. Mao Mao has to find clues from the leftover wine. Seeing the booze, her eyes instantly light up. She takes one sip and her face totally twists. Sweet and salty. An absolutely indescribable taste. Turns out the official used to love spicy food, but suddenly became totally obsessed with sweets. He completely ignored premium smoked meats. His diet became almost purely sugar-based. By the time he finishes explaining, Mao Mao downs the wine. She asks him to fetch the broken jar and investigate the official's background. He quickly brings both over, and after reading the detailed report, Mao Mao is absolutely sure. The broken bottle was never poisoned. It was coated in thick salt. Salt is essential, but too much literally kills. The official clearly died from an extreme salt overdose. Why did he not taste it? Mao Mao deduces he already lost his taste buds. He was a brilliant guy. I know what you are thinking, tragic backstory. Years ago his family passed, leaving only work, wine, and sweets. Long-term stress and extreme diet destroyed his taste. As for who added the salt, Mao Mao guesses. Someone who hated sweet wine added it as a side, or someone hated his serious vibe and played a prank. Seeing no reaction, they got furious and added even more, until he literally died of poisoning. Her epic deduction basically points right at the culprit. As thanks, Jinshi gives her a jug of wine. He warns her to drink it secretly. Seeing her super hyped, he really wants to tease her, but Mao Mao completely outsmarts him instead, firing back with a witty remark that leaves him totally speechless. His guilty face proves he is totally slacking off. Mao Mao presses him, and he just cannot handle it. He quickly changes the subject, saying he is drafting a new law to prevent youth drinking with an age limit, considering an underage drinking ban at 20. Sorry about that. The guy uses his insane looks to do whatever. Dips his finger in honey, wanting the maid to lick it. Facing this absolute creep, a trapped Mao Mao begs Gao Shun for help, but Gao Shun completely ignores her. If she was not terrified of his high rank, she would definitely kick him right in the junk. Though eunuchs supposedly lack those parts anyway, so kicking is useless. In a sheer panic, she remembers something. Consort Gyokyu rushes over. Her face goes completely dark, yelling at him for bullying her precious maid. Knowing he is wrong, the guy quickly scrams. Gao Shun claims it was a joke, but Mao Mao is not buying it. Turns out, he suspects Consort Odd Duo's maid Feng Ming is tied to that previous poisoning incident. And plus, the maid who drowned was from that same pavilion. He uses spring cleaning to send Mao Mao to investigate. Mao Mao arrives at the pavilion. Seeing Consort Odd Duo, she feels she looks exactly like someone else, but she just cannot remember who. While staying there, she notices Feng Ming treats the other maids incredibly kindly and is fiercely loyal to Odd Duo. To clear her rivals out, poisoning other consorts makes perfect sense. Mao Mao accidentally learns Feng Ming's family actually produces honey. Trust me, this is where it all clicks. She remembers the other consort hates honey and starts digging for the truth. Stick with me here. Consort Lishu almost died from honey as a kid, so it was strictly banned. Lishu looks completely terrified. Right after, Mao Mao asks Gao Shun to dig up some old palace secrets. Digging deeper, Mao Mao finds her own dad involved. Back when the current emperor was just a crown prince, consort Ah Duo had his son. But the empress went into labor simultaneously, dragging the royal doctor away. Ah Duo managed to deliver safely, but the brutal process made her lose her uterus forever. And tragically, her baby died shortly after. Mao Mao's dad took the blame and was exiled. Meanwhile, Li Shu entered the palace incredibly young. Ah Duo, grieving her lost child, treated Li Shu like her own daughter. But lately, Li Shu completely avoids Ah Duo's pavilion. Putting the pieces together, Mao Mao forms an absolutely insane theory. The next day, using a delivery as cover, she tracks down Feng Ming. And yeah, she wore protective gear just in case. Years ago, Feng Ming cared for Ah Duo's baby. Trying to give the newborn better nutrients, she fed him premium honey. What she didn't know? Honey might be great for adults, but for infants, it is literally a deadly poison. That exact night, the baby stopped breathing. Feng Ming never suspected the honey not until Li Shu showed up. Now watch closely. That's when she realized she murdered Ah Duo's baby. Terrified of the actual truth, she did everything to keep Li Shu away. And since Ah Duo could not have kids, demotion was basically guaranteed. So she schemed to eliminate Li Shu, hoping to secure Ah Duo's high rank. But the poisoning attempt totally failed. And now Mao Mao knows everything. Feng Ming completely breaks down. Her conscience has been torturing her every single second. From the moment she first met Ah Duo, she swore lifelong loyalty. But instead, she personally destroyed the person Ah Duo loved most. After the tragedy, Ah Duo swallowed her grief to comfort her servants, claiming it was just fate. But Feng Ming knew the truth. Ah Duo spent every single night screaming in absolute agony. Feng Ming simply could not forgive herself. It is impossible to imagine the crushing guilt she lived with all these years. Seeing her completely shattered, Mao Mao actually feels a twinge of pity. She suggests turning herself in, confess to poisoning Li Shu, and Mao Mao will keep the accidental murder a secret. She'll still face the death penalty, but at least Ah Duo won't learn the heartbreaking truth. However, when Mao Mao gets back, Jinshi drops some heavy news. Because she can't bear children, Ah Duo's demotion is already set in stone. The royal family is just ruthless. You felt that too, right? Mao Mao finds a depressed Ah Duo on the wall, just pouring her heart out. By now, she definitely knows everything. Mao Mao guesses the previous servant really did commit suicide to take all the blame. Suddenly, someone grabs her from behind. And shockingly, it is actually Jinshi. Mao Mao tries to stand up, but Jinshi hugs her tight. He reeks of alcohol. She tries to break free, but then she realizes Jinshi is literally crying. Ah Duo's demotion is officially finalized. On moving day, she takes off her royal crown, the ultimate symbol of her rank, and hands it directly to Jinshi. That's when Mao Mao notices Ah Duo and Jinshi look utterly identical. She remembers Ah Duo's exact words from last night. She said her child left her arms, never that he died. Mao Mao's brain connects the dots to an insane theory. To give her baby a better life back then, she likely pulled off a massive baby swap. Mao Mao always wondered why the proud Ah Duo stayed in this toxic palace. Now it makes sense. She just wanted to watch her real son grow up. But hey, it's just a wild theory. Wait, a boy? Then what exactly are you? Seriously, what are you? Mao Mao never expected Jinshi to actually kick her out. Back in the pleasure district, the madam demands she take clients. The crazy part? The kidnappers who sold her originally had deep ties to Feng Ming's disgraced family. Oh boy. A week ago, Mao Mao heard about a massive palace purge. Anyone connected to Feng Ming's bloodline was getting completely banished. And since Jinshi manages the rear palace, Mao Mao instantly got a really bad feeling. She didn't want to leave yet. She still owed the madam a mountain of debt. If she returned now, the madam would absolutely sell her off to cover the cash. Just thinking about it made Mao Mao shiver. Desperate, she tried hunting down Jinshi for answers. But she searched half the palace and he was nowhere around. And that's where we leave it. At sunset, she spots a gloomy Jinshi, only to face absolute despair. Stick with me here. Her name hit the purge list over the most ridiculous, distant family connection ever. Do you recognize me? Jinshi actually wanted to use his authority to cover this up, just to keep Mao Mao close. But he knew she hated the palace. He hesitated, terrified that forcing her to stay would ruin their bond. So he carefully asked what she wanted. Naturally, Mao Mao actually didn't want to leave the palace yet. She still had to pay off her debts. But as a lowly servant, she couldn't exactly beg him. Plus, begging wasn't her style at all. So she just dropped some super subtle hints about staying. She literally offered to take a pay cut, saying she would follow whatever order he gave. But Jinshi completely misread the room. He thought she was just too scared to refuse him. Absolutely ridiculous. So Mao Mao packed up and left the royal palace. while the guy who caused it all, Jinshi, completely lost his mind. Soul crushed, he spent every single day sulking in dark corners. He went to consort Gyokuyu for comfort, only to get absolutely roasted for doing this to himself. Gaoshun saw how badly Jinshi needed her. He couldn't stand the depression and planned a secret reunion. Gaoshun was working overtime for these two. Meanwhile, back in the pleasure district, Mao Mao was put to work. Thankfully, Jinshi paid her way more than expected, saving her from being completely sold off by the madam. She just had to assist the older girls. But Mao Mao noticed the madam scheming something lately, which made zero sense. Aside from medicine, she had zero artistic talents and was flat as a board. She couldn't figure out the madam's creepy stares. Anyway, today they were invited to a rich merchant's banquet. Now watch closely here. Booking 3 top courtesans meant absolute insane wealth, with priceless treasures sitting everywhere. Mao Mao stared at the luxury, wondering if stealing just one little item could finally clear her massive debt. Absolutely stunning. The moment the 3 top courtesans stepped out, they commanded every single eyeball in the room. They were supposedly young officials introduced by Li Haku. The second sister was literally drooling over them. Mao Mao silently cursed Li Haku for not introducing them earlier to clear her debt. Now she had to actually work. She faked a smile, pouring drinks while the courtesan's beautiful dancing got the whole crowd completely fired up. But the vibe was surprisingly chill. With her smile freezing over, Mao Mao noticed a rich guest sulking in the corner. She walked over to comfort him, got instantly rejected. But wait, that voice sounded super familiar. She leaned in closer. Surprise, it was Jinshi acting like an absolute sneak in the shadows. Mao Mao was completely speechless. Of course he would show up here out of nowhere. To stop this guy from completely overthinking, Mao Mao quickly explained the madam wasn't making her entertain clients yet. You and I both knew this was coming. Hearing the word yet made Jinshi panic, demanding to buy her. Mao Mao told him to quit joking. But wait, returning to her comfy palace life wasn't a bad idea. Jinshi was stunned. Didn't she hate the palace? Mao Mao snapped right back. He was the one who fired her. Finally, the massive misunderstanding was cleared up. Jinshi lit up, smiling like an absolute idiot. He immediately tried to touch her, but she dodged. So he switched to full-on annoying clingy mode. Defeated by this needy guy, Mao Mao sighed and finally let him touch her with just one fingertip. A tiny, prickly touch. But of course, this exact moment was caught, spotted by the courtesans. They started teasing them, while Gaoshun smiled proudly from the sidelines like a dad. Even after heading back, the older sisters wouldn't stop gossiping, giving Mao Mao a massive headache. Days later, Jinshi strutted in. A full chest of gold made the madam absolutely lose her mind. He even brought rare herbs for Mao Mao. She was literally sold off, but a few plants made her ecstatic, selling herself for some plants' wild behavior. But her older sisters were beyond thrilled for her. They dressed her up beautifully, like a bride. And when the ultra-powerful Jinshi saw this stunning new look, he completely froze. Blushing hard, heart racing, he couldn't even speak. As they stepped outside together, Mao Mao's beauty instantly drew a massive crowd. But she thought they were all just staring at Jinshi's handsome face. So what do you and I make of this? She blamed him for seducing everyone, leaving Jinshi absolutely speechless. Alright, you and I are about to watch this story get absolutely wild. Passing the city gates, even the guards on routine check are totally captivated by Mao Mao's face. They completely forget their actual jobs. Seeing this happen, Jinshi instantly gets incredibly jealous and loses his cool. He orders Mao Mao to keep painting fake freckles all over her face from now on. Can't have anyone else getting weird ideas. Stepping off that carriage, Jinshi immediately goes into full overprotective husband mode. He refuses to let anyone else even glance at Mao Mao. Interestingly, he doesn't take her to the rear palace. Instead, he actually puts her up in his own personal quarters. Since Mao Mao just got fired, she can't exactly waltz right back into the rear palace yet, so she has to stay and work in the outer court temporarily, which is basically where all the busy government offices are. Jinshi's personal maid, Suiren, gently guides Mao Mao to get familiar with her new environment. She even sets up a comfortable bedroom for her. But what totally shocks Mao Mao is that this massive, incredibly luxurious estate somehow only employs Suiren as its single maid. Suiren casually explains that they actually used to hire several other maids before, but because a few mysterious incidents happened, every single one of them became completely unable to keep working there. Mao Mao's mind immediately starts racing with wild theories. She instantly guesses those maids must have lusted after Jinshi's crazy beauty and tried slipping some shady love potions right into his daily meals. But honestly, Mao Mao's dark imagination is still way too innocent here. It turns out that ever since those incredibly creepy maids arrived at the estate, deep inside Jinshi's personal wardrobe, bizarre pieces of underwear would just randomly keep appearing. And get this, they were entirely hand-woven out of unidentified human hair. After hearing Suiren calmly describe this absolute nightmare, now pay attention, because we both felt that chill. Who knew those maids were literally out of their minds? But wait, the second she watches Jinshi waking up, looking absolutely flawless and incredibly alluring, she suddenly pauses. She honestly starts thinking that maybe those crazy maids' actions actually made total sense after all. She can't help but sigh at his ridiculous, overwhelming charm. Honestly, even Mao Mao herself starts getting some highly sneaky ideas about the guy, but obviously, she is not interested in him romantically at all. She literally just wants to extract his body scent to brew exclusive perfumes, figuring she could make an absolute fortune off it. Jinshi, completely clueless about her slightly twisted, profit-driven business plan, very caringly checks in and asks if she is totally satisfied with her beautiful current room. He tells her she can bring up absolutely any issues, but to his total, utter shock, Mao Mao actually requests to swap her fancy room for a dirty stable right near the well, all just to make her future medicine brewing slightly easier. Gaoshan hears this and frantically gestures for Jinshi to firmly refuse. It is genuinely hard to imagine what kind of crazy trauma she survived before, but Jinshi, his eyes are completely glued to Mao Mao. He totally ignores his loyal guard and just happily agrees to her absolutely wild request. However, Mao Mao never expected this huge twist. Jinshi actually doesn't plan on giving her any heavy chores. Instead, he drops a massive mountain of thick study books right in front of her. He really wants her to take the official court lady exam. Mao Mao instantly gets a massive headache over this, because honestly, aside from medicine, she literally has zero interest in anything else. And what makes it even worse, even after moving to the outer court, she still can't escape the endless jealous drama. Being the absolute only young maid officially allowed to stay right by Jinshi's side naturally sparks massive, petty outrage among all the other female officials. They aggressively march up and block Mao Mao's path like a gang, furiously demanding to know exactly what kind of dirty, underhanded tricks she used, just to make Jinshi favor her so much. Mao Mao originally wants to just ignore them, but figures if she doesn't say at least a few words back, it might actually seem a bit too disrespectful. So, she very politely hits them back with an absolutely confusing, random stream of total nonsense, just to completely mess with their heads. She just keeps spouting absolute nonsense phrases that leave her hostile enemies completely tangled up, scratching their heads, and utterly bewildered. Our eccentric Mao Mao really doesn't want to drag this out, so she just throws her hands up, saying they're totally overthinking it. She calls herself a plain ugly duckling. You and I both know she is completely playing them right here. She claims Jinshi must have some insanely weird fetish, and while saying that, she immediately unrolls the bandages on her wrists, revealing these nasty, festering wounds. The sight literally drains the color from the ladies' faces. Mao Mao then fake cries, whining about being brutally bullied since childhood, claiming the kind-hearted Jinshi only took pity on her and gave her some food out of sheer charity, when in reality, those nasty wounds on her arms are literally just routine side effects from testing heavy medicines on herself. But the court ladies have absolutely no clue. Seeing her look so completely pathetic, they suddenly feel way too awkward to keep interrogating her. Once those mean girls finally walk away, Mao Mao silently breathes a massive, heavy sigh of relief. But plot twist, Jinshi has been standing right behind her this whole time. He quietly listened to her entire Oscar-worthy performance. Mao Mao is so incredibly mortified she just wants to teleport away. Gotta go, gotta go. Preparing for the big court lady exam, Mao Mao actually tries her best to study hard for once. But let's be real, reading these massive, boring books is basically a heavy sleep potion. Whenever she starts nodding off, she simply opens her stash of ultra-rare herbs. Just one single sniff and boom, she's absolutely wired and wide awake. Exam day finally arrives. But unfortunately, even after giving herself literal dark panda eyes from pulling all-nighters, she still manages to completely fail the official court lady test. In the end, she is stuck simply being Jinshi's personal maid. But honestly, for Mao Mao, that is an absolute win. It actually gives her way more freedom to roam around and harvest wild herbs, allowing her to continue her chaotic medical experiments. However, during one of her casual herb-gathering trips, her eyes get totally locked onto a highly mysterious, secluded building. Just as she's curiously trying to guess what kind of shady stuff happens inside, smack, someone bonks her right on the back of the head. Turns out, it's one of the older court ladies. She strictly warns Mao Mao never to sneak around this area again. After dropping that warning, she turns and leaves. But Mao Mao immediately catches a whiff of a very strange, distinct perfume, lingering on her. Her mind is buzzing with red flags, but she has no choice but to walk away. Yet, what she completely fails to notice is a creepy older guy watching her intensely from the attic above. He's definitely hiding a dark secret. You see, Mao Mao has always felt incredibly conflicted about Lacan, her actual biological father. So what do you and I make of this? She doesn't hate him, but getting close? Impossible. Because in the eyes of the world, stick with me, we are about to uncover the truth behind anime's most misunderstood father. Lacan seems like a heartless guy who abandoned his family, but he is just another poor soul, played by fate. Since birth, he suffered from severe face blindness. He couldn't even tell his own mother and wet nurse apart. Because of this, his family completely iced him out. Even as the eldest son, he got absolutely zero love or attention from his strict father. They basically treated him like garbage and left him to fend for himself. But honestly, Lucan actually loved the total freedom it gave him. He spent all his time obsessed with Go and Xiangqi. Only his uncle took pity on him, carefully teaching him how to recognize people by their voices and little habits. His uncle taught him to categorize people like chess pieces. Lacan was incredibly smart, so he mastered this strange technique in no time at all. As an adult, Lacan had zero martial arts skills, but thanks to his noble background, he scored a military officer gig. And man, he was a tactical genius. He thrived in the political world like a fish in water. His flawless talent for using people even earned him massive respect directly from the emperor. One day, he steps foot into the pleasure district for the very first time. His only goal? To challenge the legendary courtesan, Feng Xin, to a board game. Having already reached the absolute peak of board games, Lacan was crazy confident. He figured this girl was just a big fish in a tiny pond, but the results totally blew his mind. In less than 2.5 minutes, Feng Xian absolutely destroyed him. He literally could not fight back. He bursts into insane, uncontrollable laughter. It is absolute madness. He just keeps laughing and laughing like a complete maniac, echoing through the entire room. He has finally found a real challenge. The crazy laughter just will not stop. While he is busy losing his mind, Feng Xian stays completely ice cold. She just orders her servant to bring out Xiangqi, the game Lacan is actually best at. She basically tells him not to underestimate her. After that intense first match, a massive mutual respect sparks between these two geniuses. Lacan starts visiting Feng Xian every single day for a match. Their relationship slowly shifts into something complicated. Honestly, it isn't even about the game anymore. It is basically their own secret, sweet little date. But there is a huge problem. Feng Xian's price keeps skyrocketing, and Lacan's wallet is practically completely empty. Affording just one visit a month is pushing his absolute limit. Worse, rumors start spreading that several filthy rich merchants want to buy her freedom. Her buyout price hits astronomical levels. The broke and anxious Lacan can only panic in silence. Sure, he is a rising star in the government, but his younger half-brother already stole his family inheritance. He literally cannot scrape together enough silver to even dream of saving her. He cannot compete with those wealthy merchants. But when they finally meet again, Feng Xian suddenly proposes a high-stakes bet. The winner gets to make any request. A crazy, reckless idea suddenly pops into Lacan's head. They start trading moves on the board, exactly like old times. But the moment their fingers brush, their hands naturally intertwine. Right there, in total silence, their two souls completely merge into one. No sweet talk needed. But fate is incredibly cruel. Out of nowhere, his uncle gets permanently exiled from the royal palace. Their entire family takes the fall. His furious father kicks him out and forces him to go study abroad. Lacan has no choice but to obey. He tearfully says goodbye to Feng Xian. Luckily, she sends a letter saying the merchant buyout fell through, so he finally leaves with a little peace of mind. Now pay close attention here, because everything goes terribly wrong. He thought he would be gone for 6 months, but it dragged on for 3 brutal years. When he finally returns, he finds a literal mountain of letters from Feng Xian. One is stained with dried blood. Next to it sits a very weird little pouch. This right here is the ultimate heartbreak. Look at this tragedy. Inside the pouch are 2 severed fingers, one large, one tiny. In the pleasure district, a severed finger is the most vicious curse imaginable. Her buyout only failed because Feng Xian had gotten pregnant with his child. It was such an obvious answer, but he was too blind to realize it until this exact moment. He questions everything about himself. He realizes he completely failed them both. Having lost all her value, she was reduced to a miserable back alley worker, meeting a deeply tragic end. Thankfully, his uncle stepped in and adopted Mao Mao. He taught the little girl everything about medicine and herbs. But Mao Mao absolutely refused to acknowledge Lacan as her father. That is, until many years later. I know what you are thinking. She finally forgives him, right? Far from it. Mao Mao speaks to him just to challenge him to a brutal game of Xiangqi. Best 3 out of 5, with massive stakes. If he loses the match, he has to buy the freedom of a specific courtesan from the verdigris house. Why go to such extreme lengths? Because she knows exactly how to play him. Ma, let's dive right into this wild gamble. so they shuffle 5 cups of liquor completely at random. The rule? After every single round, you drink 1 cup. And get this, drinking the spiked liquor once is totally fine. But if you down 3 of them, it turns into a deadly poison. Plus, backing out of this crazy board game for any reason instantly counts as a total forfeit. Lachlan accepts the challenge with a grin. Now, pay close attention here. He assumes Mao Mao must be a secret grandmaster to actually bet against a board game genius like him. But shocker, she barely even knows the basic rules. Within minutes, she gets completely wiped out twice in a row, happily throwing back 2 mystery cups without a second thought. She is literally enjoying the drinks, leaving everyone absolutely clueless about which ones are poisoned. And trust me on this, with her terrible skills, round 3 is basically a guaranteed loss. Stick with me here. After 2 spiked cups, the odds hit 1 in 3. Jinshi is sweating bullets, but Mao Mao actually wins the 3rd round. Jinshi knows her skills aren't crazy. Lacan totally threw the game. Because he was terrified she'd drink 3 poisoned cups, she bet everything on that exact fear. But nobody saw this coming. Lacan takes 1 single sip, turns dead pale, and completely collapses onto the floor. Mao Mao doesn't even blink. Jinshi is freaking out, convinced she just assassinated her father in cold blood. False alarm though. Turns out Lacan's alcohol tolerance is 0. 1 drop of real liquor instantly knocks him out cold. He usually just drinks syrup. He wakes up later at the Vertiger's house, where Mime brings him warm hangover soup. We both saw this coming. 1 sip almost kills him, but hearing Mao Mao made it, he's grinning like a total idiot. She left a small box. Inside, a single dry blue rose. Lacan is completely clueless at first. He isn't mad about losing. What actually pisses him off? Watching that Jinshi kid repeatedly touching his daughter's shoulder. 3 times. He swears he'll get revenge later, but right now, he has a massive promise to keep. Buying a girl's freedom. Lacan immediately chooses Mei since they're close, but plot twist, she actually turns him down flat. Instead, she opens a door to a dark hallway. Suddenly, it hits Lacan like a ton of bricks. Don't blink here. He sprints like a madman, finally understanding that blue rose. He pushes open that heavily sealed door, and finally sees the woman he's been desperately dreaming of. It's a beautiful win. Lacan takes Fengxian home, and these lovers finally get their happily ever after. That night, Mao Mao gets dressed up and dances beautifully right on the towering city wall, like she's offering a silent blessing. But Jinshi suddenly sneaks up, scaring the absolute daylight out of her. She almost falls to her doom. Luckily, Jinshi catches her, accidentally spotting the heavy bandages on her feet. You and I just witnessed peak romance. Heartbroken, he scolds her for being reckless, then aggressively sweeps her into his arms.